Card check issue. Not in the budget, but been talked about. I'm sure many of you have you heard about this issue? Direct assault on employees' workers' freedoms. When you deny them the right to the secret ballot, something we cherish in this country. Something, I mean, this is not only bad economic policy, it just fundamentally wrong when you're going to deny someone the right to a secret ballot, which is how current labor law works. Group of workers want to form a labor union. God bless them, it's America, you can do that, but you should have the ability to do that via a secret ballot. Further nationalization of health care. Money set aside in a reserve fund in the budget to move towards a national board. Think about this. I say this back home all the time. I asked the question to the audience. I said, with the exception of the military, name one thing the federal government does well. And that's the reaction. People kind of chuckle and shake their head, and they actually start thinking. And it's amazing. You know, no one can think of really anything. I mean, you could probably think of some programs that actually make some sense and do some good, but not right off the top of your head. It takes a while. So we know instinctively that that government, and in particular the federal government, is not the entity we want making decisions, particularly decisions as important as the health care and the health care treatment we and our families are going to get. And yet, the national, you know, the board, you know what the acronym for the board in Great Britain is? And I can't even remember the name, but the acronym is NICE, the NICE board. Think about that. What such irony. The NICE board is deciding what kind of health care you're going to get. There's actually a case in Great Britain where a 57-year-old gentleman wanted a hip replacement. And the board said, no, you're just over, you're just too old. You're not going to, 57, you're too old for a hip replacement. We do not want that in America. We certainly don't want that in America. And yet that's the direction this budget moves. Fifth, probably the most scary, in my opinion, is the cap and trade concept. The idea that we're going to restrict the liberties and freedoms now of entrepreneurs and small business owners in our economy, saying we're going to limit the amount of energy you can get. And we're going to, again, set up this national board that's going to determine the cap, the level, and then trade these credits, sell these credits, and these credits will be traded in some kind of commodity out there. No one knows exactly how this system is going to work. All we do know is from experience, when the federal government starts to do something like this, it's probably going to be bad. And I would say this, the potential for abuse, potential for corruption, I think, is very real. When you have something this valuable, the ability to get the energy you need to use in your business, particularly if you're in manufacturing, like a state like Ohio where manufacturing is huge, it's scary, because we all know that the big companies are going to get in line first, and it's the entrepreneur, those mid-sized and small-sized companies that actually make our economy go, that employ 70% of the people in this country. They're the ones who are going to get shortchanged, I believe, in this process. It's disproportionately hurt states like the one I get to represent, Ohio. I mean, we are a big manufacturing state. We're a coal-powered state. Most of the Midwest, in fact, will be disproportionately hurt because so much of our power comes from coal-fired plants. And we've all heard the term from the Cold War days, unilateral disarmament. Our emerging competitors in the international marketplace, China and India, aren't going to place limits on their energy. And yet we will. I mean, if we pass the law, we'll actually follow the law. Unlike Europe, where they have these guidelines and they don't follow them, we would actually do it. So it is a terrible concept in my judgment. And yet Henry Waxman is planning on introducing the bill. May have been introduced even yesterday. It was supposed to be introduced this week. I have to check. And it's talked about getting something done before Memorial Day. We'll see. But scary, scary concept. And then finally, the sixth thing is protectionist policies. Trade is opportunity to sell and market your product to customers who want to purchase that product. And when you place those kind of limits on the marketplace, again, it's a restriction on freedom. So all those things are happening now. I mean, and so when I say there is an attack on liberty, an attack on freedom, I don't think that's just alarmist talk. I think that's the truth. And it's important we recognize that. And frankly, as a Republican, and my background, for some of you like Rachel, been in Ohio, I'm critical of my party. I used to fight our governor in Ohio more than the Democrats did, Governor Taft, when I thought he was doing crazy things like raising taxes and spending like crazy. So I'll be the first to criticize our party when we're wrong. But one of the things I think we need to do now as a party is articulate an alternative and what makes sense for the direction of this country. And we were talking here earlier, we can't win any votes right now on the floor of the House of Representatives. Just in the nature of the House. In the House, the majority runs a place. In the Senate, the minority runs a place. Sort of, I mean, that's an overstatement. But with the 40-vote filibuster concept, the minority has real power in the Senate. In the House, it's totally Nancy Pelosi and the majority run the place. So it is really tough for us to win votes there. So we're in the debate business. We're in the communications business. Margaret Thatcher had a great line. She said, you win the debate before you win the vote. And the vote we care about, frankly, is the vote in November of 2010. But between now and then, it's our job as members of the Republican Party, the minority party, the conservative party, to engage the American people in a discussion about where we want to go as a nation, why these policies are wrong and why our policies make sense for preserving freedom and raising the standard of living in America, something that has always happened. You think about what we're doing on spending. One of the things that makes America great is this idea that parents make sacrifices so their kids can have life a little better than they did. And then they in turn do the same thing for their children. And then they in turn do the same thing and it's been that generational that has raised the standard of living in America to where we're a $14 trillion economy, the greatest nation in history, both from an economic standard and from a freedom standard. And we got to articulate a vision where we can maintain that process as we go forward. And I think it's really basic. Keep taxes low, get spending under control, and have a common sense energy, when we're talking an economic framework here, and have a common sense energy policy where we say we're going to use the natural resources we have and of course, look for those alternatives that make sense, develop those alternatives. That helps us not only in economic security standpoint, but also from a national security standpoint. That's the kind of vision we have to articulate out there.